Hello, we're back. We're back. It's a brand new week. We're here, leading our own way. Hope you've all had a great weekend. I'm your host, Andrew White. Welcome back to the Leading Our Own Way podcast. Today I've got an amazing person. I'm joined by the wonderful Justin Lund, all the way from Utah, USA. And this one, it goes deep, real fast. Justin today is going to open up about his high-paced business world he was thriving in, and the hidden storm that nearly took him out, a multi-million-dollar business lawsuit that wasn't his fault, but was kept from him by colleagues until it was too late. What followed was a slide many people never see coming. Pressure, survival mode, pain pills to keep performing, then harder drugs, and eventually even jail. But Justin's story doesn't stay in the dark. We talk about the turning points like meditation, gratitude, reflection, and learning to spot the signs before you spiral. If you've ever felt, resistance, burnout, or like you're living miles away from your best self, this is for you. I want you to stick with us. And if it hits home, please follow the show, share the episode, and leave a review so many people can find it. Anyway, here's Justin. There's a lot more to the story, a lot more journey, a lot more wisdom, and just great business advice too. He's doing wonderful things, helping children with around mental health. We're going to get into all of that. But for now, here's Justin, myself, and our sponsors. Enjoy. Here we go for part one of part two with Justin Lund. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Before we dive in, I want to give a big, massive shout out to our now new proud sponsor, Eshu Skincare, a brand that truly aligns with leading our own way. This Australian-born company is dedicated to keeping skincare simple, effective, and straightforward. They've made waves in the US, even landed in Macy's and over 300 stores, and now they're back with a renewed focus on healthy skin and real results. If you want authentic skincare that fits your lifestyle, check them out in the show notes. Thanks to Eshu Skincare for supporting real stories and mental fitness on Leading Our Own Way. And if you're interested in sponsoring like Eshu Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to connect. Justin Lund, all the way over from Utah, USA. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm excellent. It is so good to be here. Thanks, Andrew.
Such an honor to have you here. It's been a while since we last spoke, but I hope you're having a great start to 2026.
Yeah, so far, so good. Yes.
It's a pleasure. I love it when other people's people get in contact with me because it makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing and I'm reaching the right people.
All right.
It makes me feel more high exec when people's assistants and admin people contact me.
Good. Well, you should. You're doing a great job. I love it.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate it. And, I always say thank you to people joining me on my journey because this is part of my journey too and part of my recovery or moving forward and giving purpose to the world. But yeah, thank you for joining me. It's going to be a great conversation. We align in many, many different ways, but you've also been on a bit of your own journey. If I asked you, I suppose, to put this what we're going to discuss today into, I don't know, imagine a headline of a newspaper and you're going to put it into a sentence or even just words. What would be the best way to describe what we're going to hear today?
Maybe I'm thinking of like Gandalf and Bilbo Baggins, like there and back again, kind of a thing. I think
Right.
it's been a journey to many places and back again, and kind of a restarting and re-emerging out on a new adventure.
Yeah. So if we had a graph of your life, it wouldn't be just like this going up in a diagonal angle, would it? From it?
No. It'd look like a bowl of spaghetti, man. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's good. So, all right. So, on a scale from 0 to 10 being, on a mental health scale at the moment, and I know that fluctuates. We're not perfect. We sit in certain states for periods of time. Where would you say in this present moment your mental health would lie right now? Then.
I would say it's probably 8 or 9 right now.
Yeah, great. Always room for improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where are you going to take us today? Your lowest point, where would that have been on that scale?
Ooh, I've been down there. I've been down in the ones and maybe even sub ones, other
Yeah.
side of the decimal point kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for us to share how you pulled yourself from that, because that's really the nitty gritty point of this, the podcast that I love people to take away from each of the guests. Because I love calling it leading our own way, because we all look at the same thing. We're all looking at the same thing right now, but we're all interpreting it differently and all hearing it differently and feel differently about what we see out the same window or what we hear. We just, do you know what I mean? It's all about the feel.
Yeah.
And I feel like over the last few years, probably more, definitely before COVID, I think we use COVID as an excuse, but it's definitely part of the journey. But I feel like we've lost the feel of connection nowadays. Would you agree?
Yeah, there is. There's more automation and sometimes I think you're right. Generally speaking, for sure, there is less of a connection. Some of the tools that we use more pervasively now since the pandemic can make it better. Like this. I mean, I'm connected with you. This is good. We have a good connection. We've created that. This is not the first time we're coming together to talk. So there's opportunity to get those connections. But I think by default, it's dropped. It's come down from where it was. I do agree.
Yeah. No. There's plenty of good stuff. I mean, we as a family, we enjoyed COVID. The disconnect from the world, not the disconnect from people necessarily, but from the other parts of the life. All right. Well, Justin, tell us a little bit about how you consider that you are leading your own way.
Well, I really try to reflect on the lessons that I've learned and tie that consistent reflection back into the process. That quote, no man ever steps into the same river twice, for he's not the same man and it's not the same river. Like, things are always moving. I'm always growing or sliding. If you think you're standing still, you're not. And there's definitely been times that I thought I was standing still. And in hindsight now, I can see clearly that I was sliding the whole time. So that's really the takeaway is if you're level-headed, you're thinking clearly, sober-minded enough, I guess, so that you can have some clarity in your thoughts, and you insert some time for reflection regularly, usually there are lessons from the experiences that we go through that you can distill, that you can pull to keep you moving forward, to keep you going up that. Hopefully you can start to build that trend line in a positive direction. Yeah.
What was the sliding? What would you have been doing when you were sliding back then?
Well, the one area that I feel that was the most subtle and tricky was I moved to Vermont and lived in this tiny little town. It's in the northeastern part of the United States, and there's only 600,000 people live in the whole state. It's very small, very sparsely populated. It's very cold. It's really cold there right now. And living there was great when I had my kids at a younger age. It's kind of like a postcard. I just, trees everywhere, bears, moose, deer. Like, it's nice. It's really a quaint village.
It sounds bliss.
Yeah, it's a nice place. But I used that time I did have great moments with my kids, but I didn't really have a driving purpose. I didn't really have that burning desire. And as a result of that, when I thought I was just kind of treading water after I'd come off a few pretty challenging episodes in life, and I thought, I'm just going to sort of stay on an even keel here, hang out with my kids, which was great. I did. I took my kids to school every day. I picked them up every day. I mean, literally every day. I think 2 days in 10 years, my wife took the kids to school. Otherwise, it was me. Wow. And so I was just always there and present. That was really fantastic. But now, in hindsight, I realized that I started drinking again a little bit, and then I became a little bit more, and then I just wasn't working toward really anything meaningful. And not that parenting isn't meaningful, that definitely was, but I didn't have that thing. I was actually talking to my wife about this just today, that, when life throws you curveballs and things, it's like you have to push through. And that pushing, I think Tony Robbins talks about this too, that pushing energy is exhausting. But if you pull, like if you attract, like when you have something that's way out there and you keep looking at it, you fix your gaze on it and you think about it, then it almost kind of like pulls you in. And that pulling is far less draining on you. And so as I was just kind of pushing through the ebbs and flows of life, my kids got older and older. They got into teenage years. There are challenges that come with that. And as I'm pushing through those things, I thought that I was kind of standing still. Then I moved out of that area during the pandemic, just a little after, as soon as I could, realizing what a toll it was taking on my kids that were seniors in high school all the way down to third grade. And I just thought, man, they weren't leaving that chapter behind. They held on to the pandemic for a long time there. So we left, and it was in hindsight, as I started to develop healthier habits from that, looking back, I realized I wasn't standing still at all. I'm gaining weight. I'm drinking more and more. I'm just doing things that I wasn't contributing to really anything. And I was becoming less of a good father. There was really nothing to be super proud of, Yeah. And I thought, man, that just, in day to day, I didn't really realize it. So earlier I mentioned, if you keep your mind clear, if you have that reflection and you're sober minded, like if you don't, and you introduce some of those things where there's some haze and some cloudy thinking, and you don't have a clear enough mind to really contemplate what the last 6 weeks, 6 days have been, you can just kind of keep sliding down and have really not noticed where you're headed at all.
Yeah. That's a really good example of sliding and not realizing you're sliding, because in the moment you're actually enjoying those little things, aren't you? But they're, like you say, they're a build up, and alcohol is a toxin, and it's like chocolate and sugar, isn't it?
Right.
I'm the same, man. Like, I love a piece of chocolate, but then once I start, the next day I'm like, well, I'm just going to do another one. Felt good from that, but really deep down, you're just going into a deeper cycle, and it just only gets worse, doesn't it? What made you? What was you said you're happy in life, you're enjoying life in Vermont. What started you even just going back to drinking then at that point? How did that habit?
Good question. I think, well, Stephen Pressfield talks about resistance in his books. I don't know if you ever read like The War of Art or Going Pro. His view there, which I really like and resonates with me, is that when you're called to do a creative work, and he looks at that creative work as anything, an entrepreneur, writing, music, whatever, that to him, it doesn't just come from your subconscious. It's not like it just bubbles up. He thinks of it as coming from a muse, like, right, some inspired source. And I happen to agree with him on that. And when you're engaged in that kind of work, his view is everything will come at you to keep you from it. Like, the world will conspire against you to keep. You will find whatever, whether it's alcohol or whether it's just being busy or a type A, whatever it is that will get you tripped up on that. He calls it resistance. He says it with a capital R. He always says resistance with a capital R. Like, it's a proper noun to him that he takes very seriously. And to overcome that requires, in his view, systems, regimented, like schedules. He gets up and goes to the gym very, very early in the morning.
Disciplines.
Because he hates it. And it's the hardest thing he'll do all day long, he says. So if he does that at 4 o'clock in the morning, he's like, I've kicked its ass right out of the gate. And from there, it's nothing else is as hard as that. So then I can write for 2 hours, and then I do, he's got his routines and his rhythms. And I think that's why, back to your question of the drinking and sliding, I didn't recognize there was any sliding going on at the time. I thought everything was just fine. Mm-hmm. But without, and this is maybe an idea that I'm still just working on and developing because it's still pretty fresh, but without some sort of, Napoleon Hill calls it a burning desire in Think and Grow Rich and some of his work. And he says that's the most important thing that humans have, is this burning desire. It's different than a regular desire. Like, it's a burning desire. Like, it consumes you. It's in your dreams. It wakes you up at night. It's something that you just pursue with passion and vigor. And without one of those, you're just kind of robotic. It's just kind of you churn through the issues of life. And with one, like, it just lights you up and it puts a fire under you. So for those who may feel that they have some calling, quote unquote, if you will, to do some creative work or be involved in some endeavor, to share a message, to help other people, you may face some resistance. And that resistance could come with distraction. It could come with, there's been years of my life that I've just been so busy with administrative paperwork that I haven't made any progress on any worthwhile goals. And then I look back and I think, holy shit, a whole year has gone by, and what? Like I set
What have
up
I done?
20 entities, and I did this and I did that. There's nothing good, no contribution really to note, like no real progress. So my resistance was admin work. Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
come on, So in that phase, Andrew, I think it was drinking. I think it was I had just gone through a tumultuous tempest of problems that tested me like nothing else. And the way that I got through that was not drinking. I'd be dead if I would have gotten involved with drinking and doing other stupid things like that to cope. I got through meditating. I got through with like some serious disciplines like that made me stronger, that made me more clear. They gave me what I feel more access to inspiration. Like I was doing a lot of things way differently. But then I got done. And I was like, whew, thank goodness. And then I went and I decided, and I think the first part was good. I told my wife, like, okay, let's go on a vacation. This is the first. We moved to Vermont because we love the fall. Okay, so I'll just get into it for a minute. The fall is great there. All the leaves change color. It's like the whole thing lights up like it's on fire, right? Oranges, reds, and everything. So I was finishing up with this major, massive lawsuit, and it was August. And I'm looking at the calendar. I've been doing it for 5 years, and that's all I did all day long. Take the kids to school, go work on the lawsuit. I'm reading through stacks of deposition papers, like just nasty work. And I was resolved not to miss and waste another fall. So I said, by the end of September, I'm going to be done with this so I can go drink pumpkin spice lattes and do, whatever I want and enjoy that fall fun season with apple cider and all the fun stuff we used to do with the kids. And I did, in fact, wrap that up. We did enjoy fall. We drove around. We enjoyed New England. We did all kinds of things. I just pretty much yanked the kids out of school for about a month and just did whatever. Then the winter came, and I wanted to have, we're looking for some sunshine. In New England, it gets really cold, and it just stays stuck and socked in there forever. We went to Hawaii for about 10 days. I loved it there and thought, I wonder what it's like to live here. We went home from Hawaii. We were home. Well, that idea just stuck in my mind. Like, what would it be like to be a local? Got home, and I said, honey, I think I want to go back. She's like, yeah, that was great. I want to too. And I'm like, no, I mean like right now. Let's go. So
Love that.
Within 2 weeks, we were all back on a plane. We went to Hawaii. We lived there for like 9 months.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a dog. I couldn't take the dog because there was quarantine. I mean, I had to go through all kinds of hoops. I had to call the school. I had to call the state prosecutor in the state of Vermont because you can't just take your kids out of school. So I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't want to be prosecuted for truancy issues. I mean, I'm taking my kids to, so I had to figure out all the steps involved, all those things. And we went and lived in Hawaii. And it was there. That was an awesome experience. From there, we went to Europe for 6 months after that and just toured and just kind of cruised around. But I think, Andrew, that was the beginning of me beginning to justify that because I started telling myself a story. I just got my ass kicked so hard for so many years. I deserve to cut loose a little bit. I deserve to take a little bit of a break,
Yeah.
So the weight went up, the drinking started, they just started going that way with those habits, and life started to slip this way, all while I was just ignorant to it all, just thinking, I'm just treading water. I'll get back to some stuff later on, but for now, let's have a drink. Let's just kind of tool around and have fun.
Let's go sliding.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we filled in that gap because I think a lot of people need to hear that part about sliding. People listening might not be understanding they're going through that stage, right? Then it's because it appears to them in the moment, I'm all good. I'm just enjoying myself here and there, but really in the longevity of it, that long, frame is. They might be sliding. They might be going in the wrong direction, and that's when things like business or personal life might start to fall apart down the track.
I would say if there's people listening that feel that tension, that feel anything, if there's any indicators, stop and do whatever it takes because it doesn't just. It often, without some sort of crisis to really create awareness, it often does not show signs. So if there's any. I mean, this season, 5 years of litigation, another 7 years of sliding on top of that. I'm talking 12 years.
Yeah.
That I really I mean, I was there for my kids, but I'm wondering, did I teach them very good things, or I was just there? I mean, it's
Did
cool
you
that I
feel
was
present with
there,
your kids?
but what's that?
Sorry, did you feel present with your kids during that time?
I did, but towards the end of it, it got worse because I drank more and just, more and more became more of a rationale. And, now when I compare that to what how I am with my kids now, I've got a kid who's just turned 18 a month ago, and he's trying to get into college to play baseball. I mean, I spend 20 hours a week with that guy. We work on his goals. We have programs. And I'm like, my 5-year-old version, like 5 years ago, self would have never. I would have had one conversation. I would have made it way too big and boring, and then I would have got a drink after that and been like, okay, he's fine. I just like it doesn't compare the kind of impact. So yeah, I was there and I was present, but it got worse with time, and it's not worth a shit compared to what I really am capable of doing. Yeah. No, not even close.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on a couple of points there. I think we will dig into, for example, that the tough part of your life with the lawsuit and the how you change yourself professionally. But I think the morning routines comes up quite a lot in most of my episodes. I think you're right, though, when it comes to doing those small bits, and sometimes big to some people, if you get those hard things done in the morning, being comfortable with the uncomfortable really changes how we deal with some negativity in the day, whether it's bad emails, negative emails, stressed meetings, not getting results that you desired. I think preparing ourselves, it comes back to preparing ourselves, doesn't it, better in the morning. We actually do handle those stresses so much better, which hopefully prevents mental health decline, living in fear constantly, being overwhelmed with workload. I think it just takes off the edge, doesn't it? For me, that happened. I started to do cold water plunges. I know, I'd like to think I did it before it all became fashionable, but humans have been in. My excuse is, well, humans have been doing it for millions of years, so it's not a fashion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I put my body through a little bit of trauma in the morning, good trauma. Like, it's traumatic now because we have so many nice, beautiful hot showers and things like that. Lifting a couple of weights in the morning, getting that morning sunrise, preparing for sleep that night by doing those things in the morning. And that trajectory also works for you rather than, that one drink, that extra bar of chocolate or whatever it may be that is your kryptonite. So for you, you said you started to meditate, you started to change things in your life. What do you still do? Is it something you carry on?
Yes, for sure. And I'll say that when you're drinking more, the meditations become harder because I'll call it like a fog. There's just a little bit of something in your brain where your thinking is just not quite as crisp and clear. And that's the next day, that's 2 days later. Like, there's just some carryover effect. But yeah, I started meditating, and this was during the lawsuit, and I realized I had just this massive battle in front of me, and I didn't really. None of this was. It was about finances and taxes and numbers and all the things that were my kryptonite, like my weakest points. Yeah. And I got 6 months into this and realized I had the wrong attorneys, I had the wrong strategy. I tried to start something and it came back on me in spades, and I'm like, I'm going to be crucified and just strung up here. And I recognized that it was all going on in my mind, and I knew this. I've always been a student of psychology, and I've always loved reading those kind of books and understanding what's going on there. And I had some training that came up through my rehab, because that was a stint of my life in my younger years where I went through recovery for drug addiction. And that was all about psychology and learning why you do what you do. So having that as a basis and recognizing this giant issue that I needed to deal with, I knew that I needed to learn how to forgive because the poison was going to kill me. It was going to consume me. I could just ruminate it 24/7. That's all. It was getting worse by the minute, by the day. Yeah, wow. So I knew I needed to figure that out. And at the same time, my sister recommended this book. If I remember, this has got to be 15 or 16 years ago. I think it was Success Through Stillness. She told me to check it out. I read it. I did not like reading it at all. It was painful to read. And it was all just about like stories about how this person meditates and that person meditates. And it wasn't really like an instructional book. It was more like a giant testimonial for meditation. And I thought that was stupid. but it gave me the resolve to commit to meditating. So in a way, it was very transformative. And I'm like, okay, I know I've done a little here, a little there. I've been to seminars and different things where they practice this, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do it. So I started with like 5 minutes, 6, 7. I got to 20. And I just can't believe the benefit that you could get by simply bringing your mind back to either a mantra or your breath. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not airy fairy. It's just very simple. Like your mind is like a squirrel that's on 10 cups of coffee, it's going all over the place. And all you're doing is just bringing it here. And then you mess up and then you bring it here. And then you mess up and then you bring it here. And every time you do that, you're just creating a little bit more of a discipline, a little bit more of a rhythm. And it doesn't make sense. Like you describe that logically, the returns that pays, it shouldn't to me. That's disproportionate return on investment. But it works, and it gives you this peace. It gets you out of believing every thought you think is real. You realize that's just a thought. I can choose to put it back on that conveyor belt that just keeps going. And it's amazing.
Well, you just nailed it. Like people, I hear constantly, in schools or wherever, people are getting kids to do breath work, and adults too, and they always say, clear your mind. I'm like, I sit there and go, oh, everyone else can clear their mind, but I fucking can't, because I'm thinking about clearing my mind. People are totally getting it wrong. For me, it's not about clearing the mind. You cannot clear your mind. It's
Absolutely.
about getting comfortable with the negative thoughts that do come into your mind, or with the positive. Whatever thoughts come in. Breath work and meditation is all about being comfortable with what is coming through.
Yeah.
It's not about clearing them. You cannot stop them. But it's about being comfortable with going back to it, right? Being comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like cold water, meditation and breath work, we've been doing for a fucking long time. And now people are choosing to listen to the not whoop. I'm doing, for those who are not watching, I'm doing the signs.
Yeah, your quotes there.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it is powerful stuff. So is meditation one that really worked for you? Was there anything else that worked with you as well? Or
yeah, meditation is probably the main thing. What I'm doing now, I mean, that gave me a basis through that episode, through those tough times. And then as my slide kind of worsened, it became harder and harder. And I would do it sometimes, but I didn't have the same kind of experience because there was just that kind of foggy haze. And like you said, it's not like anybody listening that's wondering what it's like or how you do it. Like, it's not that difficult. It's very hard. It's just also very simple. Like, it's a simple concept, but it ain't easy. Yeah. And you just bring your mind back to that moment. The way I do it is I picture when I notice my mind engaged in a thought and I'm playing out this scenario, the scene, I drop that scene onto an iPad. That iPad goes out in front of me and lands in a river of water and floats away. Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, the balloon started to fly. Wow. We're both on Macs, clearly.
So it floats away all the way out of view, and that way I can still see it. My mind is like, it's still there, and it doesn't resist me as hard, it seems. But I guess that practice just gives you distance between the thought and the observer of the thought. And so you start identifying more that, hey, I'm the observer. And yeah, weird shit is going to come in and out of my brain at lightning speed. But I have a choice to take it and smear it all over me and own it and make it me, or to be like, nah, fuck that. I'm putting it back. That one doesn't serve me. I don't want it. I don't need it. Yeah. It's not real. It's just some bullshit that popped into my head for whatever reason, and I'm putting it back. So yeah, that's one that I still do. And I've been really recommitting to it over the last year and a half, and getting that into a minimum of 12, 13 minutes every day, shoot for 20, usually hit 20. And now I noticed that because of some of my slide, gratitude practice is something that I do. Just try to really focus in on what was good about yesterday, what's good about now, what's good in this moment. I've got this little book called The Attitudes of Gratitude that I had 25 years ago.
Oh, I like that.
I just read through it. It's very simple. You read a page a day, and it's kind of one little thought on gratitude. So I've been reading and rereading that 5 times in the last year, just because I really want to strengthen that gratitude muscle. That's one thing in my slide, Andrew, that really surprised me. I've always been an optimist, like annoying optimist. That pisses people off. But in the last few years of that slide, like I became a critical, cynical son of a bitch. And it's just when I look back and realize all the fault finding that I would do and all the negative, like, no wonder my life started to feel shitty. All I did was point out what was wrong everywhere. And that's
Training your brain to be negative, yeah.
yeah. And so I have some retraining to do, and I've been doing, and that's what's so like crazy is how much effort I've been putting in for 3 years. Like really, and I'm like, man, I'm still not out of the woods yet. I got to keep going. So
Will we ever be out of the woods is the question.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'm just surprised at the distance that I covered, considering 15 years ago, I know I was a positive person. Like people didn't like to be around me because I was like, oh, he's a Pollyanna, pain in the ass. He's always just. And now the ground that I covered is kind of makes me a little sad sometimes. But at the same time, I'm just glad that I have the awareness now and I'm back on the climb.
Yeah. And yeah, mate, I feel like you're the Utah version of me on that one because I've always been a pretty positive person. Even like going through some of my darkest moments, people wouldn't know, you know, because I'd be wearing that mask, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever wear a mask?
I did. Yeah. There were definitely times that I was wearing a mask. It was usually to mask. I mean, most of the masks would try to keep people unaware of what I was doing when I was up to no good. I think that was probably the main mask wearing.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned. I learned some of those lessons at rehab. You know, but it was before that I really tried to keep a persona of just, it was, you know, House of Cards, and I was just trying to keep that mask on to keep it all from tumbling down. But then it did.
Yeah, it's inevitable, isn't it? Yeah, because I remember you saying in our pre-chat that you write one key thing for that day, and then at the end, I think you review some of the goals. Is that a practice that you do every day still?
Correct. Yeah. So remember I mentioned one of my like forms of resistance was administrative work. I'd just get pulled into stupid little things to where in that moment or that hour, I'd feel like, okay, good. Now I got them squared away. I got the team lined up on that. We got that sorted out. Then I'd look back over a month or a quarter and think nothing really moved at all. So that's one of the shifts that I've just brought recently in the last 6 months into my practice as part of my morning routine after I get through the meditation. I do meditation. I do some exercise with reading for 15 minutes. It's the worst cardio that I do all day. It's only 15 minutes, so I get that done. That gets me kind of alert. Then I go do the gratitude, and then I move into, I use some derivative of this sentence. What's the single most important thing that I can do this day to move me closer to the life that I have imagined for myself and my family? And I sit with that for a sec, and I think, okay, what do I need to do? And damn it, if it's not as harder than it sounds, I run on sentences. Well, I'm going to do this and this and this and then and then. It's like, no, one thing. What is the thing? I can still do more things, but that's an anchor. And I write it in this little book that I carry with me everywhere. It's just about this big. And I just carry that with me to remind me. I pull it out a few times during the day and think, am I staying on that? Because if that's what's most important and I'm getting busy with all this resistance stuff, like who am I helping? What am I doing here?
Yeah. Love it. Oh, that's great. I love it. I need to do something like that myself. I do not carry a book around with me all day, but maybe I should. I love it. What's the, I had a question then where I was going to go. So you, from all of those things you put into practice, you've just mentioned about that pivotal point, going from all of what that resistance, doing all that paperwork, that administrative part of your career, you change yourself professionally to what you do now. Oh, that was the question that's come to me. Are you living that picture you just painted that you were talking about? Before I go back to my question, are you living that picture that you've just, that picture that you said you envisioned that you want you and your family to live? Are you living that picture now? If not, how far away from it are you?
I'm living part of it, and actually right now, Andrew, we're in the middle of my wife and I do a planning week either at the end or the beginning of every year. And we sit down, we put a big calendar out on the wall, and then we take last year's calendar and put it right next to it. And we look at the important things, and we start with, so last year was like my daughter's college graduation. Everything needed to kind of hinge. Plans needed, because that's the big milestone of life for us that year. This year, it's my son's high school graduation and moving into college. So those are a couple of key dates that we're really eyeballing. And then from there, we just start filling in the obligations. And then we look like, oh, there's where we could do a quarterly getaway. And that's where we could do a family vacation. And so I've been thinking a lot about this picture. And to be honest, like last year, I made a lot of progress towards that picture. One thing that, well, I was doing this with my assistant the week before last, talking to him about the calendar. And I said, okay, it's a new year. We're optimizing things. We're changing things. These are the goals. And I share with him kind of the goals for this year, for the next 3 years, 5 years. Like, this is the direction that we're going. So take a look at the calendar, and it's his job to kind of manage the calendar. So he deals with the inbox and calendar totally. And then there's a bunch of other stuff, right? A bunch of other things like that. But those two are like the big. I don't do well when I manage the calendar because I get emotional about it. I get, I get interested in the out, and I don't want that. I want somebody to tell me to go here, 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 and here because that's what makes it's optimized. But if I don't like the middle appointment, I'll be like, maybe I'll do the first two. I'll kind of adjust things around. So 2 weeks ago, as we were looking at the calendar, he kept trying to optimize what was there, and what was there is a whole bunch of recurring stuff from 2025. Right? You're going to do this at this time. And I'm like, stop. The more you try to optimize that, we may get an incremental improvement of like 5%. But look at the goals. Look at the distance. Look at that future that I want pulling towards me. If my calendar stays the same or only changes 5%, that's not the kind of progress I'm talking about. You have to delete everything. Just delete it all so that it's white, empty space. And then deliberately add back in. When are we going to talk? When does this meeting take place? And it's got to be 50%. Like when we're done. So I gave him a challenge. Like, you can't put anything on the calendar for the entire month of January that's like consistent or repetitive. No recurring appointments. And he was like, oh no. But what about? It was just tough.
So it's Miles, isn't it? Poor Miles.
Yeah. So I don't know, poor Miles. He was stifled by that one. But after a week of just kind of being a little bit having some anxiety and some angst about that, he started recognizing, I noticed that you do better with this after you go to the gym. I'm like, that's the shit I'm talking about, Miles.
Oh,
see, buddy?
Yeah. Good boy.
So
like it.
Always
like it,
schedule
Miles.
that after the gym then. That's the kind of thing that we need. We need to kind of lift, right?
There you go.
So back to your question, is my reality match my picture? It's getting there. My picture continues to evolve. I learned this concept in rehab. We have these two selves, okay? We have an ideal self and we have a real self. And the way it was described to me by my doctor there was like a circle. So one circle here is your ideal and your other one is your real self. And the idea is to have these circles overlap just a bit, okay? If they totally overlap, you're bored. Like there's no, like, what are you doing? You're just sliding, really. You're going to start to slide, you drift. If they're disconnected, you have cognitive dissonance and you won't ever really try to bridge the gap because your ideal self, what you think you should be, is so far out of whack from what you think you really are. You'll be like, fuck it. What's the point? I might as well go get high or whatever, right? But if you have this picture and you continue to bring your real self up, then your ideal self so that picture needs to evolve a little bit too. So that might be, I like that because I do always believe one of the things that I say right after my meditation is I look at challenges as opportunities for growth. And then the next thing I say right behind that to myself out loud every morning is I embrace challenges, opportunities for growth, and I believe in continuous growth. So I want to grow every day. I want that moving every day. That ideal self needs to go up just a little. So I don't know that it'll totally match, but it's getting there, and I like it.
I do. I like that. That was really powerful stuff. I like that Miles put Leading Our Way into the calendar of January for you anyway.
I told him this is a good one. We got to prioritize this one.
Yeah. No, good. I appreciate you giving up a Tuesday afternoon for me. You hopefully didn't have to work out for this one.
I have worked out today, but
sure, absolutely. Is it on that note? Do you work out every day? Is it a 3 times a week thing, or is it just I'm going to go for it because I've got that meeting afterwards?
Yeah, no, I do it every day.
Cool.
Almost every week is 7 days a week at some point. I mean, I do something every day for sure, but I usually go to the gym and work out every day. And that's been a journey I've been on for the last year or two.
Yeah, nice.
I'm in the best physical shape that I've ever been in all of my life this year. It's
I can see it, Justin. I can see it, mate. He wore the short sleeve t-shirt on purpose. Uh, so let's go to you then. Back to the more professional side, because you said you've been pushing papers and you've done all of this for a while. You changed your purpose, didn't you? Putting all these good things into place allowed you then to be, I suppose, is it more creative, more business minded, more meeting your purpose? Tell us a little bit about how you started the journey you're on now professionally.
Yeah. So in I mentioned the litigation, this lawsuit that I was in,
Yeah.
and that was a result of me not paying attention to the areas of my business that I felt were my weak areas, my numbers, my profit and loss, my tax returns. And I always just deferred and delegated that stuff, and not in a good way. I mean, in an ignorant and not responsible way. And sure enough, like I just let the wolves into the hen house. I was taken to the cleaners. And not only was a whole bunch of money taken out of the companies and off the balance sheets, but tax returns were filed. And I mean, I was just ignorant to all of it, Andrew. So tax returns were filed that were just grossly understated with the revenue that we brought in. So I had to deal with really trying to figure out how to piece that back together. And that was just not something that was the thing that I didn't like to do. And now I'm signing up for this, like, I don't know what, this undefined, unspecified amount of time that I'm going to have to fight. And where I'm living every single day is in tax returns, financial statements, spreadsheets. Like, oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
In the middle of all that, I had a friend of mine who's a little more like me, a little more entrepreneurial, just kind of a free spirit. She called and said, "Hey, I'm setting up a new business. Could you help me with like some of the entity and the payroll and all that stuff that I don't really know?" I said, I don't do that. What do you mean? Well, but she knew I was in the middle of this little battle that I was dealing with. She said, "Well, don't you have like attorneys and like guys that do all that stuff?" Like, oh, yeah, I guess, I guess so. She's like, "Well, could you?" So I had no idea, never really thought about it. And I just asked them, some of the guys that worked for me. I had accountants and lawyers. They're like, "Yeah, that's no big deal. That's no problem." Like, how many employees? 2 employees, run payroll twice a month. And so that turned into doing her books for her too. And then that kind of became fun because I would talk to her about the business once a month or so, see how it's doing and give her a little bit of advice and help. And we had a team that was kind of taking care of all this stuff. She loved it because she had somebody she trusted working on her stuff to do all that admin crap that she didn't want to do. And she just focused in her lane. She totally stayed in generating business development and building relationships and sales and all the things that she innately just did well. Yep. She started telling all of her friends. And I started getting phone calls from people like, "Hey, could you do this for us?"
So were you doing what the other people let you down doing now? You know, when you got done, when you started with the lawsuit?
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So just quickly then, how long ago did the lawsuit start? Because you said you sat that battle for what, 10 years, did you say?
5.
At the beginning?
It was 5.
5. Yeah, 5. So how long ago was that? Because obviously you've been doing this for a bit now, haven't you, for the last few years? So was it, about 8 years ago that started?
No, the lawsuit started in 2011.
Oh, wow. 15 years ago. Okay.
Uh-huh. And that went 5 years, just under 5 years. 2010, 2011, right in there somewhere. And then it went to about 2015, in that range. And then it was probably 13 or 14 when she called, 2013 or 14.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense, yeah.
So for 10, 11 years, we've been doing that, which is just kind of taking that admin stuff. And that, for a year, we just kept taking phone calls. Like, she told her friends, they called. They told their friends, they called. Within about a year-ish, we had about 50 clients that we were doing a different range of service. Some of them were administrative, just a little bit of here and there. We'd help them with some strategy. We'd set up something for them, all the way up to like full outsourced accounting work. Like, we were their accounting department. And it was nice because it gave me something to do that wasn't just litigation, and I would only do a little bit. I never did I'm not an accountant. I don't know all that stuff. But we had people that were doing those things for them. And that just became really fulfilling because it allowed, I met in Hawaii. When I went to Hawaii, I met some guys that were looking at buying a boat that was parked off the beach, and it takes people out 3 or 4 times a day, loads of people on whale watching tours. And they wanted to buy this boat, but they didn't know how to read the financials, and they didn't know. I'm like, I'll help you. And we sat in the hot tub every night, and we'd look at financials, and we'd talk, and we'd go through things. And just seeing how they went from a state of being like nervous and kind of fearful and unsure of themselves to empowered with having somebody that they could trust and rely on to help them interpret and bring that information in. It was really awesome. And now, that was 2016, I think. And they've been running that company now for 10 years, and they're doing very well. And it's expanded into more boats, real estate, different holdings. And I've just watched these guys grow into so much. And we're still doing all their accounting and bookkeeping today. Well, they're outsourced. So their thing was, we have this company, we're looking at buying it. But all these employees, we don't really know how to audit whether, we could be getting taken to the cleaners and we would never really know because there's all these people that have been there for 20 years and we're coming in brand new. So I said, well, that's easy to keep track of if we have the right systems in place. And so we've been doing that for them for a decade now, and they're doing great. So just to have that, to see their lives change and unfold with dozens and dozens and dozens of others that have a similar path is just really awesome. It's been very fun and fulfilling to help provide that.
And so you have a department, a team that looks after them as clients then? You don't do that personally yourself?
Personally, no. And that's kind of a shift that I've mentioned, Andrew, that I've been making in the last year and a half, is getting away from even doing that, because that's some of the admin work that I would get caught up in reviewing some of their taxes, having a call with them, getting it ready, even though I'm like, I don't know taxes. What am I talking about? Like, I'd sit and look at their return and have a conversation, and that would eat up my day, and then it would eat up my week. So lately, I've been moving away from even doing that and just focusing on the coaching and consulting of the business owners, because that's personally what I really love to do, is those kind of unlocks, those quick, high leverage moments that can get somebody to break an old paradigm and to see things differently and to go to the next level.
So what's your purpose every day then? I know we'll answer that at the end, but what do you do professionally? You've turned all of that into giving advice and helping people on a different level, haven't you? Just taking a very quick break to thank our sponsor, Eshu Skincare. If you haven't heard of them, Eshu Skincare started right here in Australia, using Australian ingredients to make skincare straightforward and accessible, especially for men who want results without the fuss. Their journey took them all the way to the US, where they were featured in Macy's and over 300 stores. Now they're back with a fresh approach, focusing on healthy skin and authenticity for everyone. I'm proud to have Eshu Skincare as a sponsor on Leading Our Own Way. See the show notes for their website and to see how you can keep your skin healthy and confident. And if you're interested in sponsoring like Eshu Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Now, right back to the episode.
Yeah. Yep. And I really, after this long period of a slide that I feel like I've had to overcome and try to change the inertia, get the momentum back.
Yeah.
I really started to feel like I wanted to put my hands on some sort of a meaningful number. Like, why am I doing this? What's the point? And I can look back over my career and I can see these dips in my life, from addiction to substances to the issues with embezzlement and lawsuits and litigation that I've gone through. And those were really dark and painful moments. And those moments weren't just moments. They were years and years. There was the years of a dip to come out of. And I know that there's things that I've learned as a result of that could shorten somebody else's time frame, or maybe skip it entirely.
Yeah.
Or speaking about addiction, recovery, man, if I can pull out of that and create what I've created since then, trust me, other people can too, because I am not that smart. I followed what other people taught me to do. And I remember how scared I was to think about going into rehab. Terrified. most scared of anything I've ever faced. I faced some things. If I could just go back and knock that into my head 5 years earlier, 2 years earlier, and say, knucklehead, what are you doing? Just, buckle down and go figure it out. And if I can give that hope to somebody else to stop building that house of cards just to avoid that and just to go all in and figure out what makes them tick, man, that's what I want to do. So my purpose is I want to help 50,000 business owners just to, with the ideas, the systems, the frameworks, the paradigms that can break them through out of the level that they're in and into the next level. So the only way that I could reach that number of people is like this. I can't do it one-to-one. I like that one-to-one, but it's minimal. And I know just a conversation with a friend can change their tax liability by a significant amount, which is the difference between their business shrinking and getting tight the next year or growing and adding. And I see that happen and think, I have to share something like this with more people because I am not an accountant. I'm not a tax person. I can't give tax advice. I wouldn't know where to begin, but I can tell you how to start thinking about it differently. And if I can unlock an idea that you can then take to a tax professional that makes that kind of a difference in your business, I can't keep that to myself. That's silly. That's selfish.
I agree. I completely agree. And, for the first time on this episode, I'm actually going to shift things around. We've started off how you are leading your own way, because I do love starting off the episode with that. And we've not spoken about what you do professionally in detail yet. And I know there's things you want to share, components and systems you want to share, and how other ways you are helping people and children as well. We're going to come to. I'm actually going to hold that until the end. We're going to bring on that to the end. We've discussed some of the things that you have gone down, like the lawsuit and the addiction and rehab. They're some of the keywords you have mentioned a few times. Let's go from the beginning of your life. Let's paint that picture of Justin and how this led to what you do now, and we'll hold on to that because I think that's important, and that's typically what we would do at the beginning, to be fair. But I'm going to spin it around. I don't know why, it just makes sense for me now in the moment. So you grew up in Utah, and I know the viewers already know you've been to, you've lived in Vermont and you've got a family and things like that. But let's go to you in your childhood. What was childhood like for you growing up in Utah?
It was great. I had great parents, a big family. We are a part of there's the LDS, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is a major component in Utah. That's kind of where that church was really settled and started to grow. So that's a major part of the culture here, and that was our family and is our family. Yeah. There are rules and restrictions around that make certain things really taboo, like drinking, not allowed. Tobacco use, nicotine, even coffee is not part of the prescription in the church.
I'll just put this down then.
It's okay. No offense taken. Not at all. So that was really a part of how I grew up as a small child. I'm the last of 9 kids, so I'm number 9. So I had a lot of parents up ahead of me that were good at parenting me. I think my oldest sibling, my sister, is about 20 years older than me. So she was going into college. I think she was a senior in high school, because she's told the story like she was just terrified that her mom was pregnant and she was a senior in high school as a student. I think the student body president, actually. Anyway, so I've got this big gap, and it's made for an interesting, fun, crazy, zany family with all kinds of characters, personalities. I remember because this is kind of part of and there's a lot of influential moments and people that have shaped who I am. My parents they were great, just very loving, very patient, very kind. Being the last, I think at the time I didn't realize this, but now I know with hindsight that I kind of got the best of them because they were way more patient. They were they'd seen it all with 8 kids, and then I come along and they're like, they knew how to handle parenting by then. And I know this myself. Getting to number 4, it's like, ooh, I really kind of screwed up numbers 1 and 2. And I started getting it at 3. And number 4, it's kind of like, okay, I'm hitting my stride, but no, I don't want more. I'm not going to.
I'm done with 2, mate. I don't know how you do 4.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how they're exponential? It's like 1 is not twice as hard as 2. Yeah. Excuse me. reverse
know what you
that.
mean.
Two
Yeah.
is not, it's like 22 times harder than one, and you add the third in there, same. It just keeps compounding. So yeah, 9 is bananas. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
My brothers kind of wanted to rebel against that culture, the norms, what was the expectations that society and the culture sort of placed on them. And I remember as a small kid once, and I think I shared this with you, I've shared it with you before, that as a kid, I was 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in there. And the next brother older than me, about 5 years older, he was getting ready to go out the door to school. And he set a leather jacket down, and then he went back in his room. And I went over and knocked the jacket, and a package of cigarettes fell out. And I can't remember if there was something else there or not, too. There may have been like something green that kind of stunk and smelled funny. And so I just knew it was wrong. I was a kid, I was little. And I knew that was bad. I knew we weren't supposed to do it, but I knew if I told mom and dad, do I tell them? Because then he's going to get in trouble. It's my brother. And it just gave me this weird conflict that I didn't really know how to resolve. And I didn't really know where to take it. I didn't really know what to do about it. I knew that it was bad. And if I told anybody, then he would be in trouble. And that just kind of baked with me for years and years, and then I watched him get a little further and further away and do a lot more partying, a lot more rough living. And then I just kind of started thinking I guess that's the way we do it. As I became that age, 8 years later, I started following in some of those same footsteps. And it's weird. It's not, I don't blame them, but there was some of the decision that I feel like had that path not been there, I was definitely not started out down that path. And so it's kind of a weird thing that I don't know that I still know how to reconcile, really. But that was one of those moments in life that began shaping some of my ideas about life.
Do you wish, looking back with what you know now, you had told your parents about that?
Oh, what a great question. Yeah, I think so. Somebody. I wish I would have known what to do. And I don't know if my parents would have been, I don't know. I still don't know. I'm 40 something years old. I still don't know if that's the right move. But it would have been, I don't know that it was a secret. It's not as though my parents would have told me, they were better parents than that. They I'm a kid. Maybe they knew, maybe they didn't. But if I could have processed that, maybe that would have changed me. And maybe if I knew how to process that, maybe that would have impacted even him. That brother is dead now. I mean, he passed away years ago, almost 8 years ago. And
oh, no.
That
From
way
what?
of living just caught up with him. And
did it? Is that where he died from?
Yeah. And he's struggled through different addictions and different things. And just it always plagued his life, and he died very, very young. He was, younger than I am now when he passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's a good question, because if that would have gone different, who knows what that direction of life, what sort of an impact that would have had.
Unfortunately, we can't sit in that, can we? Because we'll dwell on it forever otherwise.
Right. Right.
It's, hindsight can be a beautiful thing, can't it? And really, that's why we're having this discussion, so we can hopefully have pre-sight, the foresight, Right. So for school, for you obviously, what you do now, you like to help people, you like to teach people and guide people. Did you like school, or did you rebel like the brothers?
I did rebel. I didn't mind school for the most part. I figured out that school was something that I could work to my advantage, I didn't. Mm-hmm. I did have some rebellious attitudes and approaches, and I followed in some of their footsteps, most definitely. But I also recognized very early in high school that there was one lady that was in charge of the attendance system, and she was the attendance secretary. Her name was Sue, and she loved Dr. Pepper soda. And so when I needed something to go away, Sue got a new 12-pack of Dr. Pepper dropped off. And things like that certain teachers needed certain things, and I would try to just be helpful and resourceful, and it made getting through school really easy. I had a couple of teachers that they didn't like They thought I was skating by and getting away with too much, and so they tried to make my life hard. But even that was a challenge, and I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. So I looked for ways to.
I'm wondering what you needed from the attendance lady to give her a 12-pack. What did she get able to give to you then? What could she offer you for that?
Well, I would get into. We had this thing back then, and it was called a citizenship grade. And if we had over 5 or 8 tardies in one semester, then we would get docked the citizenship points. And you can't graduate high school without the citizenship requirements. So it was a requisite. It was this weird rule. I don't think it exists anymore. This weird thing to try to encourage attendance, because schools get their funding based on the number of kids whose butts are in the seats. So they're like, okay, you're not going to be able to graduate if you don't show up on time or if you have unexcused absences. So there was this other thing that back in the day, there was, before email and all this stuff was as pervasive, they would have an automated outbound telephone message that would go to your parents' home phone number. And if you were not in school in one of your classes that day, and it would just pre-recorded message, the principal saying blah, 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 whatever. Your kid wasn't here. And so if I wasn't there, I would try to be at the home so I could intercept that call without any of that going on. So if I was late and I knew I had some tardies coming up, I would just try to be really kind to Sue. And I would see if she could help me with a couple of those tardies and make them go away. Or a class yesterday that I didn't make it to, just like make that go away.
And Sue would oblige. Yes, I can just see you at the office, Sue. I'm going to give you this, but you know what I mean.
I was way more nonchalant. I would just walk by and be, hello, Sue, how are you? And off I would go.
She knew what you were trying to do, though, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, that was. So I liked school because of that. I liked the social aspect of it. Some of the requirements were silly. I started working as a 12-year-old, and I worked all the way. I was working a lot through high school. I had release programs to where I got out from 3 classes a day, and I could go to work early, and I would get graded for it, but I also got paid. I thought that was really cool. So I liked doing those kind of things, but it was more of, I also wanted to see what I could get away with. I wanted to get the diploma and degree and move on, but I didn't really want to follow the whole program. I wasn't interested. I've really had an entrepreneurial streak in me since I was a boy. I heard Tony Robbins talk when I was 8 years old. My brother brought that into the house, one of my brothers, and I'm like, man, this is cool. I could get on board with what this guy does. He flies his helicopter into places and people pay him to talk, and he runs all these businesses. Man, that's what I want to do. So even as a kid, lemonade stands, the whole bit, that's what I was into the most.
I was actually about to say that because you started a business pretty much straight away from high school, right?
I did. I tried. It was a little after high school, but yeah, I had a job, tried to start a business, didn't really know what I was doing, and was kind of fooling around with some recreational drugs at the time. And I was 19 years old, 18 and 19, and I tried to get into this distributorship program where I bought into the marketing rights, but I just borrowed a bunch of money and paid it to somebody else, and it never went anywhere. I had no idea what I was doing.
So what did you do after that then?
Well, that was when my father passed away, and that was very abrupt, very sudden. And without that chapter of my life, I probably would have got into some real trouble with drugs. But that changed my direction overnight. I was the only child out of the 9 that wasn't married yet. And so with that sudden passing of my dad, I moved back home to live with my mom for a while, so she wasn't alone in that initial period. And I lived there for 6, 8, 9 months, something like that, with her. And that began to kind of change. Again, that was a total course correct, like a 180 degrees the opposite direction. So I filed for bankruptcy because of that business that I'd borrowed all this money. I had just no idea what I was doing. I was just a kid and thought I was just going to kind of bluff my way into business.
You borrow money from the bank?
Yeah.
How
I
much?
built a house actually before that. I was probably $50,000 in debt as an 19-year-old.
That's a lot of money for a 19-year-old, especially then as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
That was 1999. Yeah, something like that. So
How could they lend that much money to somebody that young, though?
well, I'd built a home, and with that home, I had a lot of equity, so I had collateral for the loan.
Yeah.
Right. So I worked in a furniture store. I had brothers that were in the construction business, so I got people to pitch in, and I got materials very cheap. So I had this nice house, this 3-bedroom house, as an 18-year-old kid that had $50,000-$60,000 of equity in the home. So I was able to leverage that, and that gave me stellar credit. You know, I'm having a mortgage at 18. And it's like, sure, you want credit cards? Absolutely. So I thought I'd kind of bluff my way into the business world, but no, turns out you do need to know something to make it work.
Just going back to the drugs thing, you obviously painted a beautiful picture of your childhood. Yes, you've got 8 older siblings. What is that? What pulled you into the drugs? Because you could see everybody else doing it; it just felt normal, or was there a different entry point for you?
I did. That was kind of the normal path. And so it was in high school that I just that's where I found my tribe, of friends, that it felt comfortable to be with them because they were doing drugs too. I'd watch my brothers do that. So we'd go to parties, and that's just kind of how that path started in the middle of high school years. And then as I came out of high school, I mean, those kind of recreational things were set where, it wasn't what I ended up doing later on, which even got worse. But that direction was it was kind of part of my identity of who I was. It was the people that I hung out with and time I spent doing things that were just along those lines of partying.
Yeah. Did that feel like sliding at the time, or was that another I'm happy, I'm enjoying life moment?
Well, I don't know how much awareness I had at 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then that's at 19 when my dad passed. And then there was that change of direction. I moved in with my mom, and I started working on filing bankruptcy because I was just smoked. I had the car repossessed. Things were unraveling. So I filed for an actual bankruptcy. And it got me it was a good time for me and my mom to reconnect and really get together. And I just sobered up instantly. I didn't hold on to any of those behaviors. It was just an overnight thing. I'm not going to do that in my mom's house with my mom there. And so we started reading books, and just, again, it was so sudden. They were just there was no signals or signs. My dad was healthy, and then he's dead. It's gone. It was such a shock. So that was a tough transition for her, for all of us. But we really bonded there. And then we just had a lot of time to that's when I started reading a lot more books on meditation, and those ideas started to kind of form. But I'm 19. So like I said, Andrew, that's it. I mean, I got an 18-year-old, I got a 21-year-old, and I know they are not the most self-aware people yet.
Even though they probably feel it.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah. I know it's coming, but so no, I don't think I recognized sliding then. I didn't even know what drifting would have meant back then, really. It was just, that's what I was doing, and as long as I could get away with it. But then that big cataclysmic event of my father's passing suddenly really just made me stop and say, what am I doing? This is not the person that I want to be. So shifted, came back, took care of my things, took care of my mom, started getting my life kind of squared away in that direction.
Yeah. And you went into something I probably can't imagine you doing it. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you started to go down. You decided to do a different job that most of us probably wouldn't have predicted that you would do.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. Not in a million years. No, I'm pretty sure you're talking about the dream that I shared with you. I was having a dream one night. This is the first time it had ever crossed my mind in all of my life. And I'm pushing a cart. I'm pushing a cart down an airplane aisle. And I remember waking up thinking, wow, that never has crossed my mind as something. And so that day, I was living in Las Vegas. It was right after I'd moved out of my mom's house. I was in Las Vegas, and I'd have to catch a bus to work, and I'd have a transfer. I'd take the bus about 10 minutes. There was a transfer right at Starbucks. I went into Starbucks. I bought a newspaper, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I looked for job ads. That's what we did back then, before Indeed and everything. And I found that there's airlines that have job fairs, and that you need a professional resume, and you show up and you need to plan all day. You show up on a Saturday, usually something like that, and there could be 200 people that show up, and they just do group interviews, and they whittle that down, down, down. So I figured out when the next 5 or 6 of them were, and I went and hired a guy to do my resume, which I didn't even know how that was going to work because I didn't really have a great resume, didn't seem. So he polished that up, and then I went and I did get hired to be a flight attendant, and I began pushing carts down the airplane aisles.
So your dream came true.
It did. It was really
I love
fun.
that you just acted on a dream, though. I mean, most of us don't do that, but you did. That paints a picture even within itself, doesn't it, of what your character and personality, right?
And that's where I was at. That's what I mean. That time, that course, I'm on drugs. I'm trying to start a business. I'm totally an imposter. I'm doing all these things. And then I just reset. I went back to live with my mom. I read. I was reading really fast. I'd read a book every 2 days, 3 days, because I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything to do. I'd hang out with her. I'd read. I'd go to lunch. My brothers would come by and pick me up, take me to lunch or something. And that was about it. No real obligations for a 19-year-old. And I just started to get into, I would say, in tune with like a different wavelength, a different energy, And so when that happened, I thought, well, of course, why not? That must be something. I mean, I've never thought of it. It's not like, oh, that would be nice. This is out of the blue. This is just weird. This is something. And that's just kind of the way I would talk to my mom. We'd have conversations like that. And it seemed more normal to do something along those lines. So I did. I thought I'd see what would become of it. And I don't know. Maybe I just needed to drive over to the job fair. But no, I actually got the job as a flight attendant. And it was incredibly fun. And that was in the industry where, a straight male in that industry, and there's a lot of ladies, there's a lot of good times taking place, going on. And it was just a good, fun, for a young guy who's single, that was a good place to be. And I worked in that job for about 6 months. And then I met the woman who became my wife. And as soon as I met her, I was over it. It was weird. It no longer appealed to me. I was like, this is boring.
Why. It wasn't the dream of pushing a cart that came into your mind. It was the beautiful wife that you now have.
It was. It was fate helping me, because I think fate would know that if it would have said, "Here, go meet your wife," I would have said, "Whoa, hold on, I don't."
Of course, you probably wouldn't have come an air assistant.
Yeah,
screw that. But I mean, life dramatically changed then, didn't it? You left that industry. You decided to go back to college, and life changed with you and your wife pretty soon as well.
It did.
Paint that picture for us there.
So I did go back to school. My wife, before she was my wife, she liked the idea. We started to get, we dated for quite a while, and we started getting serious. And she really likes the idea of stability. She just thought that she would marry somebody that carpool. This was kind of the line she'd use, that carpools with the neighbors to the corporate job and has the 401k. I'm like, lady, that is not me. Like,
I'm glad you said that, not me.
There's nothing about that statement that rings anywhere close to me. But I was going to try it out. So I went to school. Enrolled in school, and she was kind of saying, like, well, what if you became like a dentist or an orthodontist? That'd be cool. They make a lot of money and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'll try that. So I enrolled into a chemistry class, and my first test, I think I got like a 16%. And it was bad.
Not for me.
It was the hardest class I've ever taken. I told you my high school career was mostly about learning how to skate through the system. It didn't work that way in college. So I worked harder in that semester on chemistry than I've ever worked scholastically in all of my life combined, like just in that one semester. I'd go to the professor's house 3 times a week at night. His wife would cook me dinner, and he would just sit there and drill me and teach me chemistry, which I hated every minute of it. I ended up getting a B- in that class, and it was the most pride I've ever had in a grade ever. But it taught me that I am not going to become a dentist, because they need a lot more chemistry classes.
Yeah.
Putting myself through college, I found a sales job with some guys that I knew. And that sales job seemed to come pretty naturally to me, because I got to get on the phone and talk to people and sell them things. And mostly I was just trying to sound as much like Tony Robbins or Zig Ziglar as I could, just inspire them and motivate them and talk about what their goals are and how they could accomplish them if they take action and they do these things and they buy this stuff. So that was a good job. I liked it. It was pretty easy. And I was making, only working, I'm going to college full time and I'm probably bringing in like 60, 70 grand a year. I'm thinking, man, I'm probably making close to what my professors are making. And then we got pregnant. And that's kind of the big shift that happened. So we decided to kind of fast track our plans and take that and consummate that with the marriage quickly. And she still wanted even more so now, nervous with this baby coming, that she needed stability and I'm kind of a free spirit. So I'm trying to quell those vibes of anxiety, but at the same time, realizing that I know I don't want to be a dentist. I don't really enjoy going to school. I took psychology and sociology classes because that's the stuff that interests me, but it was getting into clinical stuff. I'm like, this is not really for me. I'm not really digging it. I could get by. It's not, but it wasn't lighting me up. It wasn't really what I thought it would be, because I didn't want to be a social worker. I didn't want to be a therapist. I knew that, but that's kind of what those classes are sort of shuttling you towards, right? So it didn't really seem like a fit. So I started just working harder in sales, thinking I'm good at this. Well, what if I go full time or closer to full time? I could probably turn this 60, 70 grand into 120 grand a year. And if I'm making 120 grand a year, she probably won't care what I'm doing. That's enough to just keep us going. I could probably get better and advance, maybe own a company like this one day. So that was kind of my plan. We moved back to Las Vegas, bought a little condo, a townhome, and I started working full time. I tried to transfer down to UNLV to go to college there, and I wasn't digging it. So I kind of got her blessing to go full time and just revisit it after the baby was born, and let's get kind of established here. But in that environment, there was a lot of like these big ticket, high pressured closer. It was very stereotypical of what you would imagine and what you've probably seen in movies like Wolf of Wall Street. There was a lot of crazy behavior. There was a lot of drug abuse. And so I went with what I thought was kind of the least threatening, which was pain pills, because doctors prescribe those. They can't be as bad as like the blow and everything else these guys are doing. That they're getting crazy. I got a baby on the way now and a wife at home. I got things. I'll just participate in a little bit of that. That just started to grow. I had no idea just how rough that substance can be. So that turned into a massive addiction that just, went from one every few days to one a day to a couple a day to I need one about every few hours just to feel like I'm kind of normal to I can't function. I can't even get a bed unless I have a handful kind of thing. So that's where that's where things started to fall off the rails for me.
How old were you at this point?
23, 24.
Young buck. Your brain isn't even fully formed yet.
Yeah. So not a good thing. We'd moved from Vegas back to Utah, from Utah to southern Utah to northern Utah, and then we had the next child on the way. And over that period of time, over those few years that I was struggling with this, I'd tried dozens and dozens of times where I don't know if you know anything about that substance, but when your body goes through the physiological withdrawal from that substance, there's sweats, there's the convulsions, there's stomach issues, there's all kinds of things. And so I would try to arrange time for my wife to go visit her mom. Like, take the kids, go see your mom for a week. And every time I would try to make it through and white knuckle, I got to stop this. I knew that it was the wrong thing. I knew it was controlling me. And every time I'd get till the day she was coming back and just realize she can't see me like this. So it was always a secret. I always kept it from her.
So she never knew?
No. I mean, she had
didn't
ideas.
Know any changes in you?
She had ideas, and I'd always just keep trying to lie and to cover up and to do things. I was making her crazy with all of my just the flat out lies that I was telling to try to keep the charade concealed. So I ran into some trouble with the law as it pertains to that. I got driving under the influence of pain pills. And then I got arrested with possession of pain pills. And then I went to jail that time, came out. I was in jail for about 2 weeks, and I went through the worst of the withdrawals.
Good place to do it, though.
Jail. What's that?
Maybe a good place to do it. I don't know.
It's a terrible place to do it, but it works.
All
I mean,
right,
there's
maybe
if you like zero empathy, then go to jail for that, because they like to kind of make fun of you. Okay, picture this. I'm in a holding cell, in the intake cell, with 13 to 15 other dudes. Okay, there's a toilet behind a half wall about this big that is open to the rest of the cell, but there's that was the wall where anybody can walk by. There's a half wall, so your head, you'd see the head if you were sitting on the toilet. And like I said, there's some stomach problems that come with that phase of things.
Oh, yeah.
So the guards would just love to walk by and to say, like, how's it treating you now, you piece of shit? Like that was the treatment. And you're in the same room with 15 other guys.
So they can smell it as well.
It's
oh, mate. No, it wasn't. I retract what I said. That was not a good place to do that. Yeah. And I didn't mean it. Obviously in a negative way. I meant, you're disguising it from you're not hiding it, but you're away from the family. They don't have to see it. I was thinking you were more private, and it's like cold turkey in a way. That's what I was picturing. But obviously you've painted that differently for me now.
Yeah. It was terrible. It's a terrible place to deal with that. No empathy, no help or support. But you had to go through it. Yeah. And if that wasn't enough, then I did end up getting bailed out. And I got arrested again because after about 2 weeks on the outside, after that jail stint, I wasn't making any sales. And I was not bringing home any money. And I was trying to keep this job and see if I could go to that company and somehow get a signing bonus, and just trying to keep the same bullshit up that I've been up to for years. But now it just wasn't working because I was a full addict. I was just a mess, and so I had no credibility. I had no, the previous job, I'd just gone for 2 weeks because I was in jail, so that it's not like I can just jump around to different sales organizations as some hero sales guy that can come in and do well. It's like, no, man, you're effed up. But, I justified doing drugs again because that voice in my head was like, well, if you can't provide for your family, then what good are you here? And that's some of those moments where I was really at the darkest, lowest spots. But it was only a couple of days before I got pulled over and arrested again for the second time with felony possession of drug charges, which meant that I was facing what could have been years in prison.
What did you have? We've come to the end of part 1. It's not finished here, though. It really isn't finished here. Make sure you come back for part 2. But if you're feeling that mix of heaviness and hope, you're not alone. What stands out for me is how clearly Justin shows the cost of pushing through. When your inner world is falling apart, and how powerful it is to notice the slide early before it becomes a crash. In part 2, Justin takes us further into the rebuild, the tools, the routines, the vision for his family, and how he's now helping others break through their own barriers. If you got value from this, though, do me a favour, please follow the show. It really helps. Only 39% of my listeners are actually following the show. It just shows you how powerful it really, really is. So press the button, it really helps. I want you to share the episode with someone who needs it and leave a quick review if possible. It genuinely helps more than you know. And remember this, your hardest day doesn't get to decide your whole story unless you let it. Tuesday Truths comes tomorrow, where we've picked best parts of 1 and 2, put them together into bite size. Please tune into that. But part 2 of the rest of Justin's journey drops on Wednesday. And if it's past Wednesday, it's already there for you. Enjoy. We'll see you then. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.